This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Ayaya, this is so embarrassing. Baiyu added fuel to the fire and said shyly, elder sister Z is also really open, this younger sister is amazed. Lady Z was already furious, and when she heard this, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was extremely pale. Boundless anger gushed out. She put her palms together and a purple chi in her hands turned into a sword, slashing down from the sky. A look of joy flashed across Guang Yuan's face, and he laughed wildly. Even a bitch like you can do it, and you don't allow me to say it? He tapped his feet lightly on the surface of the sea, and his entire body retreated at the sound, teleporting 100 meters in an instant. Lady Z's sword was like a purple light that streaked across the sky, chasing after him relentlessly. Guang Yuan's body suddenly came to a halt. He also put his hands together, and a surge of energy gathered in his palms. Primordial chaos chi, Tao turning into nothingness. The force was compressed to the extreme and exploded. An unparalleled force rose from his palm and met the purple light. Boom. Under the collision of the two forces, the entire surface of the sea was evaporated by dozens of feet, and a powerful storm expanded. Retreat. Guang Xian's pupils contracted as he shouted in alarm. His figure flickered and he rushed towards the battle ring. It was only now that he realized that Guang Yuan had retreated because he had planned to kill Lady Z. Within the storm, the purple gas, which was originally turbulent, was instantly suppressed by a golden light. A golden lotus rose, and the light of Amitabha shone down. Guang Yuan's face appeared in the storm, full of coldness and contempt. Lady Z was shocked. A mighty force pressed down on her, and all the shame and anger in her disappeared in an instant, replaced by horror. She quickly formed hand seals and purple vines shot out from her body. They intertwined in front of her and turned into a dense heavenly net that kept pushing the Dharma light away. Everything that exists is like a dream, like a bubble, like fog, like lightning. It should be as such. Guang Yuan's Dharma form was solemn as Amitabha transformed into a pocket-sized golden lotus. It floated in his palm, then he clapped his palms together and slapped them down. Under the suppression of the golden light, the countless wisteria turned into smoke and disappeared. A vast power descended like a god. This was Guang Yuan's all-out attack, wanting to kill the other in one fell swoop. Lady Z's face turned pale. She felt that she couldn't resist this force at all. She could only be eroded bit by bit, and the elemental energy in her body started to collapse. Guang Yuan, who had previously been an intermediate 9-star, had not only stepped into the peak state at this moment, but he also had the ability to kill her, making her feel a burst of fear and despair. Bang! The sea below suddenly exploded, and a wave shot up into the sky, shaking the golden light. The entire space between the sky and the sea had turned into a mist, making it impossible to see. The water element of the world. Guang Xian's voice sounded. The water elements in the world were like trickles of water, flowing into the golden light. The entire space was squeezed down along with the water flow, suppressing the vast power of the light of magic. Lady Z felt the pressure on her body was lifted, but she was already injured and coughed out a mouthful of blood. It's worth it. Guang Xian's cold voice rang out once more, floating amidst the countless streams of watery light as he stared coldly at Guang Yuan. The boundless water elemental energy was like a vast ocean. Previously, it was as smooth as a mirror. Now, it was like a storm and raging waves that slapped the shore, suppressing Ru Amitabha. A terrifying aura condensed in the water element. Guang Xian made a hand seal and turned into the shape of a dragon. Guang Yuan turned pale with fright. The power of the water element of the world had been refined by Guang Xian to the point of perfection. It was as if an entire world had enveloped him, like maggots in his bones, completely unable to be shaken off. All of a sudden, a fiery blade light flashed across the sky and cut all the water power in the world into two. The opening of the water world was still burning, and the fire was moving away. What? Guang Xian was taken aback. He saw Yunxiao standing in the air not far away, the thousand-year domineering saber in his hand burning with divine fire and surrounded by primordial astral wind, shooting out streams of indestructible sharp aura. Guang Xian's eyes revealed a look of disbelief. No matter how strong the blade qi was, it could not split open his water elemental energy. Even if the wind and fire elements on the blade were extraordinary, it should have been suppressed by his water elemental energy. But, he did not know that Yunxiao's understanding of the water element of heaven and earth was no less than his. The invincible water element divine power of heaven and earth had been broken by Yunxiao with one saber move, which made him a little uncomfortable for a moment. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one had ever thought that someone would dare to interfere in the battle between the two and break the water power of the world. The Mu brothers and the three people from the Fuyao Holy Palace all had strange looks in their eyes, as if they had a whole new level of respect for him. Good job. Guang Yuan laughed maniacally, and rays of golden light shot out from his body, dispersing the water vapor that filled the air. The lotus petals on Amitabha bloomed one by one and flew under his feet, lifting his entire body up into the sky. Within the golden dermic light, Guang Yuan's expression was solemn. Sanskrit sounded from his mouth, and his hands formed strange seals. The speed was very slow, but each move was steady. Ancient manhwa characters flew out of the lotus and surrounded him, turning into a divine scripture. A vast power appeared from the chapter and suppressed Guang Xian's power. The entire sky was instantly divided into two distinct halves, and infinite spiritual pressure burst out from them, spreading in all directions. Damned thing. Lady Z was stunned for a moment at the moment the water element was broken, but then she flew into a rage and turned into a purple beam of light, rushing toward Yunxiao with a murderous aura. Yunxiao had been on guard for a long time. He immediately summoned 3 heads and 6 arms, as well as the giant true devil spirit, and stood up on the sea. After making a hand seal, a black vortex appeared in front of the giant spirit. 3 illusionary weapons appeared on his 6 arms. They were a metal chain, a saber, and a book. They all smashed into the black vortex, and a terrifying power spread out. After that, the giant spirit also formed a seal with its hands like Yunxiao. The black vortex was like a Milky Way, spiraling in a spiral state as it gathered in the palm of the giant spirit and pressed down. Lady Z was also shocked by the power. The spiral seal seemed to contain a very high level of martial intent rules, which were even higher than her comprehension. In her shock, she was even more determined to kill Yunxiao. There was a huge gap between their realms. Lady Z moved like a shooting star under the flashing light. Countless wisteria appeared in front of her to dispel the demonic qi. Then, the wisteria converged into a sword in the air, instantly breaking the seal's power and slashing at Yunxiao without losing any momentum. A bullet of autumn water, a bullet of the moon. Suddenly, the sound of a zither was heard. A treasure zither appeared in front of Baiyueshan. As she pulled the strings, a huge sword qi shot out and cut the air. Boom. The sword energy rushed directly at the purple sword beam, and the 2 sword beams collided violently, shooting out a strong light as bright as the sun and devouring both Lady Z and Yunxiao. The exploding sword light turned into countless sharp qi, which kept attacking his body and cutting his skin. But at the same time, it was also absorbed by the imperishable golden body and repaired. In the blink of an eye, it was as perfect as before. He didn't dare to fight Lady Z head-on, so he turned into a bolt of lightning in the sword qi whirlpool and flew down after making a hole. Clang. 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 After this move, Baiyu didn't stop. Instead, the music in her hands became more and more urgent. With every pull of the string, sword qi would shoot out, condense around her body, and not dissipate. At this moment, the entire sea region was in an uproar. More than half of the hundreds of experts that Guang Xian had brought with him flew into the air. The rest of them stepped on the surface of the sea and ran towards the few of them. Half in the wind of the river, half in the clouds. Baiyueshan's expression was cold as she chanted softly and a tune was played. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The countless sharp swords that were spinning in the air instantly turned into a rain of swords that covered the sky and the earth, shooting toward the hundreds of experts in front of them. One of the female disciples behind him suddenly asked, "Qingxi, are you scared?" "I'm not afraid," the green-clothed woman shook her head. The female disciple laughed. "It's good that you're not afraid. This is your first time fighting with someone. It's already very rare for you to be able to remain calm. In addition, with your strength, there's nothing to be afraid of." Qingxi nodded and looked ahead with a calm expression. Under the rain of countless swords, everyone's steps were directly blocked. A few of the weaker ones let out a miserable cry, and more than 10 nine-stars martial emperors in front of them performed their divine abilities to block the rain of swords. An unusually thick and heavy shell flew out from one of them and spun in the air, blocking a large amount of sword radiance. After the rain of swords, the man was also injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Kill. Crush these humans." A monstrous killing intent surged as hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses rushed over. Bai Yu's expression also changed greatly. Mu Yitong's face darkened as he shouted, "One army. Here." Mu Yijuan responded and raised his right hand high. It was as if he was holding a handful of golden beans. He then threw them into the air and they fluttered in the wind. His left hand formed an incantation gesture and he shouted, "Cut grass as a horse, and cast beans as soldiers." A circular formation light appeared in the sky and flashed past. Countless strange symbols within it emitted an abnormal power. The handful of golden beans seemed to have been lit up in an instant. Each of them emitted a resplendent light and swelled up one by one to face the strong aura that was coming at them. They turned into armored golden soldiers. What? Everyone was instantly stunned. Such a legendary technique and divine power actually appeared in front of their eyes. There were hundreds of them and each of them had the strength of a martial supreme. Gulp. Yunxiao swallowed his saliva and muttered to himself in shock, "How is this possible?" Bai Yuashan was also pleasantly surprised and said to the two disciples behind her, "This is one of the Mu clan's 3 strongest puppetry techniques, transforming beings into soldiers. This brat actually managed to master it. One of the 3 great puppetry arts." Yunxiao was shocked. Could there be 2 more powerful moves? His view of the Mu family instantly changed. The other party was arrogant and blindly arrogant, but it turned out that he had some substance. The 100 armored soldiers all looked different, and the weapons in their hands were different as well. Even Yunxiao and Bo Yuqing were dumbfounded by such a miraculous puppet art, let alone the Sea, which was backward in the art of cultivation. The Sea clan members were all dumbfounded and petrified. The Mu brothers were very satisfied with everyone's expressions. The corners of their mouths rose, and they were extremely proud. "Go!" Mu Yijuan shouted as he pinched his fingers. As he changed the hand seals on his fingertips, the nearly 100 puppet soldiers raised their weapons and turned into rays of light that rushed toward the Sea tribe. Bang! 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 All of a sudden, all kinds of light burst out, and the entire Sea was in a killing situation. Although the Sea tribe had a great advantage in both numbers and strength, the armored golden soldiers did not have the ability to think or feel pain. They were more ferocious in their killing, and the disadvantage was not as obvious as expected. In the sky, Lady Zi's eyes were like lightning, shooting out beams of cold air. She had only wanted to kill Guang Yuan and had little interest in the battle below. She immediately flew up. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in the sky. Mu Yitong stood in front of her and coldly said, "Although a good man doesn't fight with a woman, you're not a good person either, so it's fine if you've been beaten." "You." Lady Zi's face twisted in anger. She let out a shrill cry and charged towards Mu Yitong. "Humph." Mu Yitong's expression did not change. He made a hand seal and a vortex appeared in the space to his left. Slowly, a silver puppet appeared, and it was holding a huge iron sword. After the puppet appeared, his hands quickly formed a seal and he slammed it on the puppet's chest. A light emerged from the place where the palm hit. Mu Yitong and the puppet moved towards the center, and gradually, one man and one puppet directly merged into one. After the fusion, Mu Yitong looked like a golden man in iron armor. He raised the big sword in his hand and slashed at Lady Z, who was rushing toward him. Lady Z's face turned cold. Countless purple vines flew out of her hands and tied up the big sword and muitong. Bang! Bang! A slight squeezing sound came from the iron armor. The wisteria began to wrap tighter and tighter, constantly crushing the iron armor. Small deep pits appeared and were still gradually squeezing in. Humph, trash. Lady Z's eyes were filled with contempt. With a flash of killing intent, a short dagger appeared in her hand and she aimed it at Muitong's throat. Although all the vital parts of Muitong's body were protected by iron armor, the dagger exuded a sharp intent under the cold light. It was obvious that it was not an ordinary object. You're the one who's useless. Muitong's eyes opened and shot out a sharp light. There was no trace of fear in his eyes. Instead, it was filled with coldness and killing intent. Lady Z's heart trembled. To her horror, she saw a black shadow emerge behind Muitong, standing above the sea like Yunxiao's true fiend Dharma idol. This is... Lady Z's expression changed drastically. The shadow gradually solidified and turned out to be a huge puppet that towered into the clouds. The puppet's eyes were embedded with some kind of treasure that was emitting a bright silver light. Its face and body were covered in all kinds of formations. The huge puppet raised its hand and slapped down at Lady Z. Boom. Between the palm and the 5 fingers, there were still dense arrays connected. Countless energy gathered from all over the body, all condensed into the palm. The fingers swirled with countless fierce winds, and the air stacked on top of each other. Mountain-splitting heavenly god. Bai Yueshan exclaimed and couldn't help but be overjoyed. The Mu brothers are really helpful this time. Qingxi was also stunned by the huge puppet. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. How is this mountain-splitting heavenly ding made? The Mu family is the world's #1 puppet family. These are top secrets, how could I know? This time, there's hope for Guangyuan's victory. She glanced at the retreating armored golden soldiers and Muitong's pale face. Large beads of cold sweat trickled down his face. He was almost unable to hold on. Let's make a move as well. There's no lack of 9 stars martial emperor powerhouses in the Sea clan. No matter how powerful Muitong's divine ability is, it's impossible for him to stop them alone. The strings on her zither changed, and beams of half-moon-shaped light shot out, cutting into the chaotic battle. Qingxi and the other female disciple looked at each other, drew their swords and stepped into the array. The 2 sword skills were not brilliant, but each move and form was very steady. It was obvious that their foundations were unusually solid, and they were stable and not chaotic in the chaotic battle. Muijuan poured a pile of medicinal pills into his mouth, and his complexion slightly improved. Yunxiao threw out the Divine Realm tablet as well, summoning all the guests, ministers, and other experts to come out and fight into the chaotic battle array together. As everyone attacked together, the retreating armored golden soldiers once again held on. In the chaotic battle formation, a man was watching coldly, his eyes flashing. No one knew what he was thinking. His eyes suddenly turned to one direction and found that the other party was staring at him coldly. His heart couldn't help but skip a beat, and he revealed a strange bitter smile. Brother Yunxiao, who do you think will win this battle? Oh. Why does Brother Yuqing ask this? Of course, evil cannot prevail over good. Bo Yuqing's face immediately pulled when he heard that. He knew that Yunxiao was beating around the bush again, so he deliberately talked nonsense with him. Is Brother Yunxiao so optimistic about Guangyuan? Although Guangyuan has a transcendent grade profound level weapon, he has just stepped into the peak of the 9th level after all. He is still much weaker than Guangxian. Do I have a choice? Yunxiao said with a wry smile. That's true, Bo Yuqing nodded. You've dug out the spirit vein of Donghai Palace. Even if you're at the end of the world, all sages will kill you. This is it, Yunxiao said. But I'm very curious, since Brother Yuqing is helping Guangxian, why didn't you help? Lord Guangxian has the advantage, Bo Yuqing said with his head held high. He'll win without a doubt. Why do I need to make a move? Old fox. Yunxiao cursed under his breath. He knew exactly what Bo Yuqing was thinking, which was to preserve his strength and wait for the situation to change. But he was slightly relieved. As long as he didn't make a move, there would be one less enemy. Otherwise, with Bo Yuqing's current strength, he would really be greatly suppressed. At this moment, in the sky, mountain-splitting heavenly god's palm pressed down. Layers of air were squeezed and exploded, giving off an ear-piercing and unpleasant sharp sound, making people feel upset. Before the palm landed, the wind was like a falling meteorite, and Lady Z's long dress fluttered in the wind. She raised the dagger in her hand, and a purple light soared into the sky, cutting through the layers of compressed air, and countless whirlwinds shot in all directions. At the same time, she struck out with her palm, which turned into a huge shadow in the air and directly hit the palm of the mountain-splitting heavenly god. Bang! Lady Z was knocked back by the force. Although she was not injured, she felt her blood boiling. She had been injured by Guang Yuan earlier, and now, her energy was even more exhausted. The Mu brothers' puppet technique displayed its remarkable abilities, shocking everyone. Even Guang Xian, who was facing each other in the void, who was in a life-and-death battle, was distracted and revealed a look of shock. Guang Yuan's pupils constricted, and he laughed wildly. A thought from a god or a devil is a thought from life and death. The sky full of Shen techniques floating in front of him was caught by him and gathered in the palm of his hand. Taking advantage of Guang Xian's distraction, he turned into a golden sword and slashed down. He stepped on the lotus platform and the sword in his hand opened and closed. Golden light shot into the sky. The entire sword did not have a physical body. It was formed by the ancient manhwa characters. The head and tail were connected to each other, forming a divine incantation. Pfft. The space barrier around Guang Xian was instantly cut open. The two forces, which were originally on par with each other, lost their balance. The golden sword was invincible as it pierced through the air. Guang Xian was shocked and took a step back in the air. However, he did not panic. Under that powerful attack, he revealed a cold smile. "Do you think you've won?" Guang Yuan's face glowed under the golden light, and that solemn and dignified appearance also became ferocious. He chuckled and said, "Isn't that so?" Guang Xian snorted and a green shadow appeared in his hand, turning into a mini dragon. He pointed out a seal, and circles of light bloomed from the body of the swimming dragon. At the same time, countless strange symbols flew out, interlocking with each other and forming the dragon lock array. This is... Guang Yuan was shocked, and the light on his body began to dissipate. He said in terror, "What is this?" "This is the thing that will take your life." Guang Xian laughed towards the sky and said ferociously. The dragon lock spell was connected to the sky and extended out limitlessly, directly circling around Guang Yuan's body. A cold look flashed in Guang Xian's eyes. With a flash of his body, he suddenly opened his hands, forming the shape of a five-clawed dragon, and directly jolted towards Guang Yuan's chest, his eyes revealing an incomparably fierce look. "Oh, do you think a mere dragon shaking hammer and dragon locking formation can take my life?" Guang Yuan's frightened expression suddenly disappeared, and his face became expressionless, cold and numb. Yet, his eyes were filled with endless ridicule and ridicule. "You." Guang Xian's entire body trembled, a bad feeling welled up in his heart, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. The gradually dissipating light on Guang Yuan's body suddenly brightened once more. The great dragon lock spell had no effect at all. The golden sword in his hand, which was formed by countless manhwa ancient characters, let out an ancient sound. A vast and powerful force rose in the sky. "It seems that this dragon shaking hammer is meant to take your life." Swish. As the golden sword slashed down, it illuminated Guang Yuan's face, making him look ferocious and terrifying, while Guang Xian's face was filled with endless fear. A ray of black light flew out from Guang Xian's body. It was a tortoiseshell. The tortoiseshell patterns on it naturally formed a formation, exuding an endless sense of antiquity, as well as a steady and heavy aura. Bang! The sword of the manhwa ancient word struck the turtle shell, sending out endless black runes. The golden longsword and the tortoiseshell began to break down. A large number of golden ancient characters and black patterns on the tortoiseshell floated into the sky like dandelion seeds. However, the tortoiseshell broke down even faster. Before the golden color had completely disappeared, the entire tortoiseshell had completely disintegrated, and the last few black patterns had also disappeared. The entire process happened in an instant. Guang Xian wanted to attack again, but it was too late. Just as he struck out with his palm, the remaining ancient characters of Manhwa fell from the sky and landed on his body. The aura within his body immediately became chaotic, and he spat out a mouthful of dragon blood as he was sent flying.